Hello friends, welcome back. And as I said in the last video, we will be doing a short tutorial on how to actually handle the requests that we set up through the XHR and forms tutorial last time. I'm also going to try a different style to this tutorial. I noticed that a lot of my tutorials are quite long, and I personally prefer that. However, I'm not sure if you prefer that. So this one is going to be quite quick and to the point, with very little elaboration, although elaboration in certain cases where it does seem necessary. So do please let me know what you think of the style of this video. Um, so anyways, without further ado, let's get started. So I'm in the folder that we built last time, forms. And as we saw last time, we built this front end which writes a form to the browser, and then that you know that can make a web request with that form. So I've also added this line here, which I just use for debugging as a little sanity test to see that we are actually, in fact, building that form, and the events are firing um, whenever the form should fire. And yeah, so then that opens us up here. This is what it looks like. And so if we were to do this, if we were to fill this in, then it would not actually work because there is nothing set up. So it wouldn't look very interesting. And so how we start is by going to common and the route file. So if you're in a auto-generated Obelisk project, then the route.hs in common will look like this. And so what we're going to want to do is add another route. As you can see, well, it's not fully obvious. This first set will be any backend routes, whereas the front end routes are below here. And so I'm just going to call this my route. The name can be whatever you like, but this part matters. And so I'm going to put email because that's what we chose for our, you know, uh, like the where the request is actually going in frontend.hs. Um, and we're not actually going to do any email. That will be a different tutorial in the future. Um, But again, just to keep this focused, just gonna do very simply. We're gonna take the request and we're just gonna write it to a file. Um, and the core important piece is just seeing how to actually set up the handlers and stuff. Um, and so this is again just auto-generated stuff here, except for this. This is a function I have created to get the request body with how snap works. And so where does snap come in? I've also added in all of these imports, and I should mention that I've also added these three dependencies, and yeah, and to set up what we're doing today, which is rather simple, as well as these language extensions, and I will explain why we need those in a second. And it's wholly because of how I decide to do it. Nothing really special, except for Gadgets. I don't know how you could really get away from needing this language extension. Um, but yeah, so this is the function we're going to change, and right now this just, no matter what route happens, does nothing, and accepts the request, does nothing, and the user gets the request on the back end, or sorry, on the front end. Yeah, but not very exciting. So this serve function is a function kind of in the black box of Obelisk internals to use the Obelisk framework. And so all we need to do to work with this is to add a case. So this is where lambda case comes in. This is just a nice syntax. Instead of saying case, you know, request of, um, instead of naming that request, or well, not really naming that request. This is just a nicer way of laying it out. And so our route was my route, um, not your route. And we're going to use this combinator for the route. This is just basically, if we had a number of arguments in our route, and we will be talking about this in a further tutorial. If we had a number of arguments in our route, this would be used to separate them, but we don't, so we're just going to end it off with that. And this should work. Let me just do a little check of that. And so we don't have that imported. Did I actually save my file? I did not. Oh, and I forgot a part. We have to add to backend.Route. And so this is actually where Gadgets comes in, because this right here is Gadgets, or generalized algebraic data types. And so this is just effectively another way of writing, how a backend route works. And so I'll elaborate on this just to reduce the complexity of it. We could really just say, well, yeah, I mean, it is a little bit more generalized, hence the name, but we could make this happen here, assuming we're not going to add any more, any more variables here. We could effectively have that by doing backend.Route missing, where really this A is just our unit. I just put the A there to kind of give some more clarity. But in this case, well, we know exactly what it is. Right, so you can think of it in just that kind of equivalent way. I do recommend looking into Gadgets a little bit more. I might do a tutorial on them. Who knows? We will see. But anyways, so we're good there. And so now we just need to make we can use do here because this is a monad. Specifically, if we look at the type of it, and this is a way we can figure this out. So, well, I guess that's not really in scope. So by doing this, and I must have scope type variables enabled. Do I have? Is that a default extension? Huh. I would have thought that would force me to use scope type variables, but I suppose not. And so we can see found type wildcard standing for snap unit, and the unit, of course, just comes from that. Pure is the of course, a monadic function, and the monad in question is snap. So let's look at snap really quickly. So we can find it on Hoogle. I don't have my Hoogle server open, so I'm just going to find it this way. And it's not on Stackage, so we can't find the actual functions directly in it. I'm going to go to snap core here, and this is the snap monad. If we look at the source, it is a little confusing. It kind of looks like a parser function, or sorry, a parser monad, in the sense that it has functions inside of the constructed data type, and largely what you need to know here is that it contains state. So, and that's like I'm not a huge fan of Snap. I actually prefer Servant. I think that, if you're learning HTTP and Haskell, I would definitely recommend Servant. A lot of great tutorials out there for Servant that you will find quite easily. But yeah, and the reason I don't like it is because of how it uses state. For example, like even just the getting request body feels like a weird function that I just shouldn't have to write. I don't know. Maybe there's a purpose for it, and I'm kind of bashing it without really having a deep understanding of it, and that's because I prefer servant. But um, anyways, so to get the request, we have to kind of treat it as a stream, as you'll see here. But that's why we have this get request body, because we're not really trying to. This is not a Snap tutorial, nor would I be the best person for that. There is a ton of Snap tutorials out there, so yeah, no point in me talking about it too much. Um, but yeah, and so like the last kind of quick point about it is they have these functions, write text and write JSON, and so this is how we would give back a response body. And so I recommend only using this function kind of once, and that's the kind of nervous Nelly in me, I suppose, saying that. But it's basically just building a monoid in state, in that if you like, if we think of this as a string, if we think of the state as just simply being a string, and we write A, then B, write text A, write text B, write text C, what we'll have in the response body is ABC as a string. So, yeah. And this is also write LBS, other ones for sure. Um, but yeah, again, anyways, all we're going to do here is just use this get request body and then print out the request to start. So, of course, you're going to want to have the modules that are in the Cabal file that I showed, and otherwise you won't be able to write this. So that works. And let's go here and generate a request. So we're going to say that my name is some crazy crap. That won't, those two semicolons won't actually matter, but again, might as well. That's my email. Feel free to message me with any questions or feedback. And here's our message to the world. Oh, and this is okay, so I had to refresh. We don't really need to worry about that. That's because we haven't handled the backend route missing, which we could easily do by adding another case here. And so as I just learned, this will automatically happen whenever we open up the app. So yeah, email Sprout. And there we go. That worked. And so we can, just a little bit of sanity that we haven't done anything stupid with the form. And now, oh, so we are printing the request right here. I'm going to add just another little sanity check. Very important. And you actually will need to put in the email so that you can, pass the form test. Otherwise, it will give you invalid form. And Sure. Maybe that's because I don't have this set up. So it'll be the same. And I'm just going to say print happened. It's going to complain because I'm trying to do IO in the snap monad, but monad snap, or sorry, rather snap, is of the class, or is a monad transformer. So we can just do lift IO. We can do pretty much lift IO anywhere. Oh, and I need to do this. So our request is not sending. Why? So my first guess is that it has something to do with gate, maybe. So I'm just going to get rid of this, do a little sanity check. Instead of gate, I'm just going to do directly form to submit. Did I also change? Yeah, okay, so it needs to be HTTP because we're on localhost. And there we go. Okay, so I guess gate was doing something, and so we had a problem with our gate, or at least I did. I can't remember if this is actually the exact same thing that I had in the tutorial last time, but because I did do a couple different things, but yeah. So I guess I've done something wrong with gate, and so yeah, we are already at 17 minutes, and this is something I kind of plan to be less than 15 minutes. So while I could look into how to fix gate, it's just some stupid error that I did. I'm not thinking about my event propagation properly, and so how I would go about this, I will just say, is I would look at each step of the event propagation graph, the actual event that I'm doing. For example, after fan either, I would check if form to submit and such is actually happening by just effectively writing a DINE text, kind of like I've done here. So I encourage you to do that. Good exercise for sure. And yeah. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope this was helpful. Again, please let me know your feedback. And bon voyage, happy coding.